This is Shawnee College truck driving in-cab pre-trip for the state of Illinois. So when you start your pre-trip, you won't start from the outside. You will start sitting here on the inside of the truck in the driver's seat. The examiner will be over there, and she will go over, or he will go over all the rules with you and ask you if you got any questions. So they're going to tell you that you have to point to what you're talking about, and if it's something that you have to demonstrate, you need to demonstrate it, like the seat belt. So we'll get to that. Now, like I said, the first thing you want to talk about is your side box, because that's where a lot of people forget to talk about their side box because they're not actually looking at it. So if you get that out of the way, what you want to say is I've got a fuse and circuit breaker for every fuse and circuit breaker on the truck. I got 3 reflective triangles. They're not cracked, bent, or broken, and they're properly stored away. I've got a fire extinguisher that's properly mounted secure. It's not cracked, bent, or broken. It's fully charged and rated 10 BC or greater. My grab handles are properly mounted secure. They're not cracked, bent, or broken. They're not missing any nuts or bolts. My seat belt is properly mounted and secure. It's not ripped, frayed, torn, or excessively worn, and it latches and unlatches properly. Now, what I suggest you do is get a flow going, like a pattern. So I start on the outside and then see how I kind of float in, and then I'm going to come down and it'll be a flow, you'll see. So my shifter is properly mounted secure. It's not cracked, bent, or broken. There's no excessive amount of play, and it's not missing any nuts or bolts. My floorboard is clean and clear and free of debris. There's no bottles or cans or trash that can get underneath my pedals and cause a hazard. Now, my pedals are clean and clear. They're properly grooved, and there's no dirt or oil or debris on them that could cause a hazard. My clutch pedal goes to the floor and comes back. My brake pedal goes to the floor and comes back. My accelerator pedal goes to the floor and comes back. Now we're going to keep flowing up to the side mirrors. My side mirrors are clean and clear. They're not cracked or broken, and they are adjusted for me. My side glass is clean and clear. It's not cracked or broken. My windshield is clean and clear. It's not cracked or broken, and there's no illegal stickers. My dash is clean and clear. There's nothing up there on my dash that could hinder my defrost from blowing up on the windshield and defrosting the windshield. So when we get to the dash, we know it's time to start the motor. To me, there's 3 separate parts to a in-cab. You got what I just went over, and when you get to dash, you know it's time to start the motor. And if you flow and do all that, you're not going to miss anything. So we're going to start the motor. We're going to perform a safe start. And so what you'll have to do is explain to the examiner what you're doing before you do it, and then do it. So I'm going to start my truck out of gear. I'm going to push the clutch to the floor. I'm going to start the engine, and I'm going to watch my oil pressure to make sure it rises to normal operating range within 5 seconds. If it does not, I'll shut the truck off and try it again. So now I'm going to perform that. My oil pressure did rise to normal operating range. Now I'm going to let my clutch out slowly, make sure it's not in gear, and it's not in gear. So now, since I'm here with the oil pressure gauge, I'm going to go ahead and mention my gauges. So my temperature gauge is working properly, and it's rising to normal operating range. I do not have a voltmeter on this truck. It has a volt light. So, and what that indicates is if the volt light is out, then it's charging and working properly. If the volt light was on, it would indicate that I have a charging problem. Either a alternator or a battery is gone bad. Now, my tachometer is working properly. My speedometer is working properly, but I'll test it when I do my when I test my service brake. My fuel gauge is not broken. It's working properly. and I have enough fuel for the trip. My primary and secondary air gauges are working properly, and they're rising or filled to normal operating range. So I'm going to continue to come over. There's nothing here. You don't have to mention the radio or none of that kind of stuff. So you just take your eyes and do a visual search over. You come down, you come back, and then the first thing you see is your defrost and your heater. So now you want to turn your blower motor as high as you can get it, move it to defrost. You feel the air coming out. My defrost is working properly. So at this point, all I'm going to do is slide it to the heater position, which is on the floor position. I'm going to I feel air coming out. My heater's working properly. So that's all you have to say about that. Turn it back off, move on over to the headlights. So there my headlights are. I'm going to turn them on. I'm checking my dash panel lights when I come on. Now, I see that they're on. Now, it is hard to see in the daytime, but I see they are on. And another way I know they're on is when I hit my high beam indicator, it comes on. Because with them lights off, that light does not come on. So I know that my headlights are on because my high beam indicator light is on. There, it's off. So we keep coming over. The next thing we come to is hazard lights. Flip it on. Hazard lights are working properly. So now you're at the end of that. You come on up, and the first thing you see is your turn signal. Left turn signal working properly. Right turn signal working properly. So now I'm going to move right on over here, and this is where I'm going to talk about my windshield wipers. My windshield wipers are properly mounted secure. They're not cracked, bent, or broken. The blades are soft and pliable, and it's a proper tension against the windshield. Now I'm going to demonstrate that my windshield washer fluid comes out and works properly. You just pull it back. Windshield washer fluid is working properly, and you can see my wipers are working properly also. So now you come on up, and the next thing is your steering wheel. What you want to say about your steering wheel is that steering wheel has no more than 2 inches of play or 10 degrees on a 20-inch wheel. No more than 2 inches of play or 10 degrees on a 20-inch wheel. Now, you want to check your city horn, your air horn, and then once you get your air horns done, you know it's time to move on to the third part of the end cap. And this is the third and final part, but it is the most important part of your end cap, because if you do not get it correctly, you will fail. You can miss nothing on the brake check. So now, at this point, our brakes are pulled out, so they are set. First thing I want to do is check my trailer brakes. I'm going to start in the back and work forward. So how do I do that? I leave that trailer brake set. I push my tractor brake in. I take my gear shift and I put it in first. Now, I'm going to let my clutch out until I feel the truck pulling against the brake. Seems to hold. All right, so that means my trailer brakes are good. So I'm going to now reverse it. I'm going to set my tractor brake and release my trailer brake. Now I'm checking the brakes up here. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to let my clutch out until I feel it start to pull. Seems to hold. So now at this point, I'm going to release them both. And now in this particular truck, the air goes down from setting the brake. So at this point, you might want to let your air build up a little bit before you move on. So we're going to go ahead and release the tractor brake also. So what we're going to test now is the service brake. This is your service brake. So we're going to pull forward approximately 5 miles an hour with our hands off the wheel, and then push our clutch in and apply our service brake. What we're testing for is see if the steering wheel pulls one way or the other, which means we have a braking problem. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to pull forward, hands off the wheel, 5 miles an hour, clutch in, push the brake, service brake worked. It did not pull one way or the other. Now, again, my air pressure is down a little bit. So at this point, I may want to build it up some. But that's up to you when you do the test. So now that that's done, this is important, very important part. It is in first. My clutch is in. A lot of times when we're practicing in the yard and stuff, when you push the clutch in, you always want to take it out of gear, and the first thing you'll do is reach up there and set these brakes. Do not do that. They have to be pushed in to complete the brake test. So what we do, we leave them pushed in, we leave it in first, we shut the key off. Now, after the key's shut off, it's not going to roll because it's in first. Brakes are released, key is off, but this is important. Do not forget this part. You have to turn the key back to the on position right there. Do not, make sure you go as far as you can, because if you just go halfway, your lights and your warnings will not work correctly. So we have the key all the way forward. So at this point, we're going to perform what we call a static test. The static test is where I apply approximately 90 pounds of pressure to my service brake. Now, like I said, that's approximate. You ain't got to cram it to the floor. You just have to give it a little, approximately 90 psi pressure to the brake. Now, when I do that, after the initial loss of pressure, I should lose no more than 4 psi in 60 seconds. So I'm going to do that, perform that now. So I had a little loss of pressure, and then you got to count it out to 60. Most examiners, I believe, will look over and say, is it holding? And you can say yes, and they'll say, okay, that's good. But if not, you'll have to figure out a way to count to 60. So we're going to pretend like we just counted 58, 59, 60. It held. So now I'm going to let off. At this point, I'm going to perform my pump down test. I'm going to pump my brakes, and somewhere around 60 psi, my warning lights should come on. So I'm going to do that now. There they are. My warning lights are on. So now, at this point, I'm going to continue to pump, and somewhere between 40 and 20 psi, my brakes should pop out. That's why we had to leave them pushed in, because they can't pop out if you've already pulled them out. A lot of students get to this point and realize they pulled them out, and at that point it's too late. So make sure they're pushed in. Continue to pump. There they go, they popped out. Now, make sure both of them pop. Sometimes one will pop and the other won't. If that's the case, continue to pump. And the other one eventually will pop out. Now, don't reach up there and help it or nothing. That's a fail. So they popped out. So at this point, you're almost done. All you have to do is perform another safe start. So your brakes are set. You want to take your truck out of gear, push your clutch in. You're going to start the motor up. Watch your oil pressure. And what you're doing now is making sure that your air compressor is building air properly and that your governor cutout works. So you will actually start the truck again. And once you start it, my oil pressure rose. I'm waiting to, you can give it some throttle to make your air compressor build up quicker. So you'll actually sit here with the examiner until your air builds up to 120 psi, and when it does that, you can say, this concludes my in-cab pre-trip.